Tonight in America, one mother faces a choice. Let her child die of fever or steal $8 and lose everything. What would you do? Breaking tonight. The U.S. Department of Labor confirms 1 in 3 working mothers will choose between medicine or meals this week. But the story you're about to hear happened 47 minutes ago. Wait till you see what the CEO discovered on those security cameras. What he did next shocked the entire industry. And it all started with $8.47. This is Lina Rodriguez. In exactly 47 minutes, her decision will either save her dying son or destroy 6 years of perfect loyalty. The countdown begins now. In small-town Millbrook, Ohio, where secrets travel faster than ambulances, Lina Rodriguez raced through Maple Mart's frozen aisles at 11:47 p.m. Her employee badge, 2,190 days of perfect attendance, swung like a noose as she clutched her phone. Fever 103, 5 de grave. Please hurry home. The clock was ticking. Her wallet held exactly $1.47. Her child was burning up, and security cameras were watching everything. 6 years, not one sick day, never complained, never asked for help. Tonight, Lina faced what no mother should: choose between feeding her feverish toddler or feeding her family tomorrow, between stealing to save a life or staying honest to lose everything. Her hands trembled over the dairy cooler. 2 yogurts, 1 sandwich, the innocent selections that would either save Sammy's life or end her career in disgrace. What Lina didn't know, the emergency assistance she desperately needed. Denied for 1 missing signature. The food stamp expired yesterday. The overtime pay held up in processing hell for 3 weeks. So there she stood at 12:14 a.m., facing the oldest moral dilemma known to motherhood. Break the law to save your child, or follow the rules and watch them suffer. Security camera timestamp E02247. The footage that would change everything was being recorded. Lina reached for those items with shaking hands. She didn't know that 500 employees would soon watch this exact moment. She didn't know a CEO would question everything he believed about business and humanity. She didn't know her 47-minute choice would spark a revolution in workplace compassion. She only knew her baby needed her. What happened next will restore your faith in humanity, or shatter it completely. Lina had started at Maple Mart when Sammy was just 3 months old. His tiny fingers wrapped around her thumb as she filled out the employment application in the break room. His father's name had vanished from her phone screen the day the pregnancy test turned positive, a Memphis number that now belonged to someone else's heartbreak. Single mother seeks stable employment, she'd written in her neatest script. 3 interviews later, Jerry the manager offered her the night shift at $14.75 an hour. Nobody else wants these hours, he'd admitted, but the shift differential is extra $1.50, and you won't need daycare if you sleep while the kid's at school. Over 6 years, she'd perfected the delicate dance of survival. Work 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., drive home in dawn light, catch 4 hours of sleep while Sammy played quietly, then rush to her second job cleaning offices from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Pick up Sammy from Mrs. Peterson's apartment 3A at 5:30, make dinner from whatever was marked down. Baths and stories, kiss goodnight, and back to Maple Mart for another shift. The other night, workers became her family. Maria from Produce, pregnant with her 5th, always slipped Lina bruised fruit that couldn't be sold. For smoothies, she'd wink. Tom from the loading dock saved damaged cans, dented tomatoes, creased soup labels, items marked for return, but still perfectly good. My contribution to the cause, he'd laugh, his gold tooth gleaming. But they didn't know the full truth, how her perfect attendance record came at the cost of working through her own flu, hiding bruises from when she'd fainted in the break room last month, or that the bag of rice and beans Tom had given her was their dinner for the past 5 days. Tonight, as she organized the yogurt section by expiration date, her phone buzzed again. Fever 103, 5 degrees. He's calling for you. Mrs. Peterson was 83, from the era when men wore hats and children said, "Mom." She'd watched Sammy since his first breath, charging nothing but grocery help, and the promise to help her read mail on Sundays. Lena's wallet held exactly $1.47, found change from the break room couch and under car. Mats in the emergency room would want a copay. Children's Motrin was £8 inside in night, and her shift wouldn't end for 7 more hours. Wait till you see what happens when the security cameras catch her next move. At 12:15 a.m., Lena made her decision. She moved with practiced efficiency, muscle memory from 6 years of night stalking. 2 vanilla yogurts from the dairy section, Sammy's favorite, the only thing that stayed down when he was fevering. Threiki non $98. 1 turkey sandwich from the deli grab-and-go case, protein for tomorrow's breakfast when, God willing, the fever would break. 4 $49. Total $8.47. She placed them in her employee locker, convincing herself with desperate mathematics. Friday's paycheck is $365, minus rent leaves $145, minus utilities leaves $75, minus bus pass leaves $32. Enough to pay this back and buy groceries, just this once, just until the assistance check arrives. But compassion often meets consequences in the harsh fluorescent light of surveillance. At 12:22 a.m., Marcus in security was reviewing footage for a separate incident, a customer claiming racial profiling at checkout. As he scrolled backward through timestamps, he spotted movement in the restricted stockroom corridor. Camera 4, angle 2, captured Lena's trembling hands selecting the items. Camera 6 recorded her placing them in her locker. The digital timestamp was merciless. 0.2247, code yellow, Marcus announced over the radio, store vernacular for possible internal theft. By morning, a moment of maternal desperation would be categorized as employee misconduct. Case file LE327, ready for termination processing. Lena worked through the night unaware, her mind 3 miles away, where her son fought fever in a second hand. Crib, his stuffed rabbit keeping vigil until Mummy could come home. Morning brought judgment with the predictability of dawn. At 6:15 a.m., as Lena clocked out, her manager Jerry intercepted her by the time clock. Office. Now. His voice carried the weight of a man about to follow a manual he'd memorized, but never questioned. The security office smelled of stale coffee and broken promises, 3 chairs, 1 small desk, and a monitor playing evidence on repeat. The footage played, Lena taking the items, checking over her shoulder, the hesitation before placing them in her locker. Timestamp clear, dollar amount calculated, case file number assigned. Jerry's face was set in what store policy called professional neutrality, but looked like practiced cruelty. 6 years, Lena. 6 years and you throw it away for $8.47? My son is sick, Lena whispered, her voice smaller than she'd ever heard it. Fever won't break. I was going to pay it back Friday. I have the shift schedule request form to prove policy is policy. Employee Handbook Section 4. 3.2. Theft of company property results in immediate termination, regardless of amount or intent. Jerry slid a termination paper across the desk. Your locker will be searched. You have 10 minutes to gather personal belongings. Security will escort you out. The walk from office to locker felt like a perp walk in slow motion. Other early morning stockers stopped their work. Maria crossed herself, Tom turned away. Everyone knew policy protected the store, but it was people who made the community. The news spread like wildfire in summer grass. By 8:30 a.m. the store manager called the local news to preempt any employee leaks, a calculated PR move that backfired spectacularly. Maple Mart maintains zero-tolerance policy, employee terminated for theft. By noon, WKRB's noon broadcast covered it. Local mother fired for stealing food for sick child. The anchor's sympathetic tone couldn't mask the underlying judgment. The worst part hasn't even happened yet. What you'll see next will shock. Social media exploded with the force of divided humanity. The store's Facebook page accumulated comments faster than admins could moderate. I don't care if her kid was dying. Theft is theft. What kind of example is she setting? A mother desperate to feed her sick child and we're discussing policy. Have we lost all compassion? If you can't afford kids, don't have them. Simple. 8:47. 6 years of loyalty destroyed for 8.47. This is why Amazon is winning. I've been shopping at Maplemart for 20 years. Not anymore, it's good riddance to thieves. Actions have consequences. The hashtag #LenasFight began trending, splitting the internet-connected population of Millbrook into camps that transcended typical political divides. This was about survival versus society, mercy versus mandate, the letter of law versus the spirit of humanity. By day 3, local news moved on to high school football scores, but Lena's story had taken root in the town's consciousness. The library circulation clerk mentioned it while checking out children's books. The pharmacist at Corner Drug quietly told customers about the store's payment plan options. Even the drive-through attendant at Billy's Burgers asked each customer, "Have you heard about that mom who got fired?" In her dim second-floor apartment on Oak Street, Lena watched the digital storm in silence. No job, no prospects. Sammy's fever had broken, but her spirit hadn't. She began sending out resumes with trembling fingers, each application requiring an explanation for leaving her previous position. Terminated for policy violation became her scarlet letter. 2 weeks passed. Her savings, 147s, 50 Thailand hidden in a coffee can, dwindled to 23 tons. The apartment grew colder as she delayed turning on the heat. "Sweaters are warmer anyway," she told Sammy, bundling him in layers. Ramen noodles became their main meal, with free ketchup packets from fast food restaurants counting as vegetable servings. When Sammy's cough returned, something Lena hadn't felt in years surfaced. The UA, consideration of hopelessness. She found herself staring at the medical bills, then at the door wondering if she should just pack up her Toyota with 187,000 miles and drive until the gas ran out. Just when all seems lost, someone unexpected steps in. You won't believe. See, that's when something remarkable happened. Someone who'd been watching the story unfold from his mahogany-paneled office across town. Someone 3 months into his role as CEO of Maplemart's Southern Division, brought in to rebuild the company's community image after a series of PR disasters. Someone who decided to dig deeper into the file marked Rodriguez L. Terminated. EM 327. Charles Whitman III had been groomed for executive leadership his entire life. Yale Business School, McKinsey Consulting, corner office by 35. But when his own mother spent her final months organizing food drives for local families, something shifted in his perspective. "Business serves people, not the other way around," she'd whispered from her hospital bed. Those words echoed in his mind as he reviewed termination reports. One file stood out. 6 years perfect attendance. 0 customer complaints. Multiple employee commendations. Recent emergency assistance request. Denied for missing 1 signature on page 3. "Get me the full file," he told his assistant, "and the security footage." What he saw in the grainy black and white recording was different from what policy manuals described. He saw hesitation, checking around, placing expensive items back, selecting the least costly options. The body language of guilt, yes, but also desperation. That Friday evening, instead of heading to the exclusive Millbrook Country Club for golf and martinis, Charles drove his Tesla to Oak Street. The GPS guided him past the manicured lawns of his own neighborhood to streets where paint peeled from houses and gardens grew hope more often than flowers. Number 342 was a converted Victorian, divided into 6 units. The name beside apartment 4B read Rodriguez Garcia, a reminder that Lena still carried her ex-husband's name for Sammy's birth certificate. Through the window, Charles could see into a sparse apartment that spoke of proud poverty. No television dominated the room. A worn couch faced a makeshift bookshelf, milk crates holding library books. In the corner, a thin mattress on the floor served as a bed, currently occupied by a small boy wrapped in what looked like several jackets instead of blankets. Lena sat on the floor beside her son, a scene of devastation and devotion. In front of her, a jar of coins and bills, contents spread across the carpet. She was counting 27, 28. Her lips moved in silence after that, perhaps in prayer, perhaps in calculation. Behind her, the refrigerator hummed, unusually quiet without the typical suburban appliance choir. Charles watched for 20 minutes. His business training told him to leave, to handle this through proper channels. His mother's voice reminded him, business serves people. He left without knocking, but not without leaving something behind. His business card placed in the door handle with a handwritten note on the back, Tuesday 2 p.m. Please come. That night, Charles couldn't sleep. The image of Lena counting pennies while her son shivered haunted him more than any balance sheet ever had. At 3 a.m., he opened his laptop and began drafting an emergency revision to the employee handbook. By dawn, he'd written the longest email of his career to his executive team. We're changing our termination review process, effective immediately. The following morning, Charles did something unprecedented. He scheduled an all-staff meeting for the upcoming week. Everyone, he emphasized to his assistant, current employees, recent terminations, evening shifts, morning shifts, all hands on deck. Sir, that's highly unusual. So is watching a loyal employee starve because of a procedural signature. The stage was set for what would become the most discussed company meeting in MapleMart's history. But first, someone had to find Lena Rodriguez and convince her to attend a meeting at the company that had branded her a thief. Just when you think you know this story, the CEO makes a decision that shocks everyone. Finding Lena wasn't difficult. Small towns have ways of knowing where people are, especially those who've become unwitting symbols. Charles dispatched his assistant Jennifer with a simple envelope. Inside, a $500 prepaid card and a handwritten note that read, "For Sammy's medical needs, no strings, we should talk." Jennifer knocked on apartment 4B at 10 a.m. Saturday, heart racing with a mission she didn't fully understand. When Lena opened the door, Jennifer saw what the security cameras hadn't captured: the dark circles under eyes, the hollow cheeks of someone who gives her portion to her child first, the dignity somehow maintained despite circumstance. "I don't want charity," Lena's first words, defensive yet quiet. "Mr. Whitman wants to meet you. He's reviewing your case personally. My case is closed. Company policy is clear." Jennifer noticed Sammy peering from behind his mother's legs, still pale from his recent illness. "He specifically mentioned this isn't about policy anymore." Lena's shoulders sagged imperceptibly. "When?" "Tuesday, 2 p.m. He'll come to you, here, wherever you're comfortable. What happens next will restore your faith in humanity." Tuesday. Arrived with November's chill, Charles Whitman III, CEO of a billion-dollar regional chain, drove himself to Oak Street in a rental Toyota Camry. The Tesla felt obscene for this meeting. He carried no briefcase, no tablet, no executive armor, just 2 cups of coffee from the local diner and a file folder that would change everything. Meeting in Lena's sparse living room felt like entering a different reality. The apartment smelled of pine sol covering other scents, the potpourri of poverty. Charles set the coffee on a wooden crate serving as a table and began with words he'd practiced. "I was wrong." Lena blinked, certain she'd misheard. "The company was wrong, and I've reviewed everything, your 6-year record. The signatures bureaucracy required but didn't provide. The system that failed you at every turn, and most importantly, what led to that night in the stockroom." Sammy watched from the couch, still weak but fascinated by the tall man speaking to his mother, the way teachers speak to children, with careful kindness. Charles opened the file. "I found your other assistance applications, the ones before. The dental work request for Sammy, denied because you'd already used your yearly allowance on his ear infection. The overtime request to cover your car repair, denied because night shift is already premium pay. The emergency advance request when Mrs. Peterson was hospitalized, denied because you hadn't completed the financial hardship education module online. Each line was a paper cut, a system designed more to protect assets than assist people. I also found the reasons you never used sick days. 3 instances of working through food poisoning because you couldn't afford losing shift differential. The time you came to work with pneumonia because missing 3 days in a row triggers a disciplinary review." Lena had stopped meeting his eyes, focused on the coffee growing cold in her hands. "The surveillance footage? I've watched it differently now, frame by frame. You hesitated. Put back the expensive organic yogurt for the cheaper brand. Chose the smallest sandwich. Placed them carefully in your locker, not stuffed in a bag like someone stealing for profit. You were buying on credit from your own paycheck. The paycheck you'd never miss a day to earn. Charles reached into his jacket pocket and placed an envelope on the crate. We're implementing something new. I'm calling it the emergency assistance bridge program. No signatures, no wait periods, no modules. Human need recognized by human decision. This is real money, he continued, to cover what you took and what you would have needed to take. But more importantly, you're being offered your job back. Same position, but with guaranteed overtime and sign-on bonus equals to 6 months of health savings account contributions. I can't work there again. People look at me differently now, then come back differently. As my personal liaison for employee welfare, help me understand where the systems break people instead of help them. Lena finally looked up, eyes wet with disbelief. Why us your shareholders, the board policy? My mother once told me business serves people. I forgot that. You reminded me. You won't believe what happens when 500 employees see the security footage. The video played on the community center's projection screen. Maple Mart had rented the entire venue to accommodate all employees. 500 people in folding. Chairs from cashiers to executives watched grainy footage time-stamped November 4th, 12:22 a.m. Unlike previous viewings, this footage was accompanied by narration. Charles Whitman stood beside the screen, describing what policy manuals couldn't. This is Lena Rodriguez, employee ID LR327, 6 years, no absences. Tonight, her 3-year-old son burns with 103-degree fever. The emergency assistance she applied for, denied because of a missing signature on page 3 of 15. Her food stamps expired yesterday. Her paycheck for 7 more hours away. Watch carefully. She hesitates and puts back the expensive items, selects the cheapest options, 2 yogurts and a sandwich, $8.47 worth of food to help her sick child survive the night until she could come home from working for us. The security manual called this code yellow, internal theft. I call it something else, a failure of our humanity. The CEO does something no one expected. Keep watching to see this powerful moment. Charles pressed pause. Every employee had seen enough theft procedures to know what comes next. Termination, escorted exit, lifetime ban from premises. But instead, he gestured to the side of the stage. Lena emerged from backstage, Sammy in her arms. She'd debated coming, feared the judgment of colleagues who'd heard only whispers of her disgrace. But Charles had convinced her. They need to hear your truth. Lena, tell them what happened that night. Standing before 500 people, many she'd worked alongside for years, Lena's voice shook. But as she spoke, about the fear, the calculations, the desperate mathematics of survival, her voice grew stronger. I counted my options. Drive to the free clinic and wait 8 hours while Sammy's fever got worse. Call an ambulance and face bills that would bankrupt us. Or steal $8 worth of food so I could make it through one more night. The room was silent except for HVAC systems and the rustle of guilt settling on shoulders. I'm not asking for sympathy. I broke policy. But I need you to understand, I wasn't stealing from you. I was borrowing from Friday's paycheck, from overtime I'd already earned but couldn't access, from a company that already had every hour of my loyalty for 6 years. This is the moment that changes not just one life, but an entire company. Culture. Charles stepped forward. Lena's story isn't unique. Since I started digging, I've found 12 other cases this year where our policies created impossible choices. The machine operator who used the break room food bank without permission because payroll processing delayed his check. The cashier who kept working after her father died because bereavement leave unpaid meant losing her apartment. He walked to a whiteboard and wrote, "New policies effective immediately, emergency assistance fund. $5,000 available instantly with manager approval. Flexible sick leave that accrues instead of expires. 3-day payroll processing instead of 10 medical emergency. Leave with pay continuation. Family hardship review board with employee representation. This changes everything about how our company operates," Charles continued. "It will cost us, But the cost of these policies versus the cost of losing our humanity? There's no comparison. He turned to Lena. You're rehired with back pay, but more than that, you're appointed to lead our new Employee Welfare Advisory Board. Your job is to find the holes in our systems before they break more families. The applause started slowly, from the night shift workers who'd seen Lena's daily struggle up close, then spread. Soon the entire room was standing, not just for Lena, but for a company willing to admit its failings. In the back row, Jerry, the manager who'd terminated her, sat motionless. After the meeting, he approached Charles privately. I followed. The rules. The manual says, sometimes the manual needs an editor who understands the human cost of every line. 3 months after that meeting, Maple Mart's Southern Division led the company in employee retention and customer satisfaction. But numbers couldn't capture the real changes. The night shift workers who once traded dented cans now had legitimate food assistance accounts. The emergency fund had been accessed 47 times in 3 months for burst pipes, car repairs, medical bills, and family crises. Not a single request was denied. Lena's first advisory board meeting addressed practical changes, increasing the break room microwave capacity, so employees didn't have to eat cold food on split shifts, upgrading the break room chairs so workers over 50 weren't developing back problems, installing better lighting in the parking lot for early morning staff commuting in darkness. But the most profound change was philosophical. Managers began asking different questions. Not just, can we afford this leave request, but can this person afford to keep working without it? The media followed the transformation. From policy to compassion, Maple Mart's unlikely revolution became a Harvard Business Review case study. Charles was invited to speak at conferences about corporate conscience in action. But for Lena, the most meaningful change was private. Sammy's cough disappeared with consistent heat and proper nutrition. His pediatrician noted his improvement. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Mrs. Peterson received regular grocery deliveries courtesy of Maple Mart's new community care program. Her kitchen cabinets, once holding only crackers and canned soup, now supported a woman who'd supported a single mother for 3 years. Maria from Produce had her 5th child in February. Her colleagues surprised her with a fully furnished nursery, made possible by the new employee gift matching program. Tom from Loading Dock used his emergency fund access to fix his truck's transmission, preventing a job loss that would have hurt his family of 6. 6 months after the meeting, Charles visited Lena's apartment again. This time, it held furniture instead of milk crates, food in the refrigerator, children's vitamins on the counter. Sammy's artwork covered one wall, bright crayon drawings of supermarkets, happy workers, and a boss man with a smile. Changed things, Lena told him. You changed things, Charles corrected. I just had the authority to authorize it. You had the courage to survive it. The final ripple came 1 year later, when corporate headquarters adopted Maple Mart Southern Division's policies company-wide. The emergency assistance program expanded to all 847 stores. Employee welfare advisory boards were established in every region. The bottom line story? Employee turnover decreased 47%. Customer satisfaction increased 23%. Productivity jumped 15%. The financial analysts could quantify it, but they couldn't measure what showed in employees' eyes: the absence of fear, the presence of hope. Lena kept the framed handkerchief from that transformative meeting, a 847 piece of courage that reshaped corporate philosophy. Sometimes she'd take it down and show Sammy, who was too young to remember the fever that changed their lives. Mommy, why do you keep that? To remember that sometimes the scariest choice leads to the best change, baby. Justice isn't just about following rules. It's about understanding why rules need to change. Every policy has a human face, and every human face has a story worth hearing. In boardrooms across America, the question remains, do we serve the system, or does the system serve us? Lena's courage and Charles's conscience proved that when humanity guides business, everybody profits. If this story moved you, if you believe that second chances can reshape entire systems, that mercy has no price tag, and that sometimes our own moments of desperation can become catalysts for change, join our community by subscribing, because somewhere tonight another mother faces an impossible choice, and your support helps us tell the stories that might just save her tomorrow. Share your own moments of impossible choices in the comments. Sometimes sharing our struggles becomes someone else's salvation. Remember, the next time you see someone break a rule, ask yourself, what system forced them to choose between survival and society? Your understanding might just write the next chapter of change. Until next time, keep believing that compassion is the most profitable investment we can make. Thank you for taking this journey with Lena, for understanding that behind every choice that seems wrong lies a story that deserves to be heard. Your time, your compassion, and your willingness to see beyond the surface. These are the qualities that make real change possible. If Lena's story touched you, if you believe that mercy matters more than policy, or if you've ever wondered whether one person's kindness can truly transform lives, you've found a community that believes in second chances, in looking deeper, and in the power of understanding over judgment. Please consider subscribing to our channel. Each story we share is a reminder that ordinary moments can carry extraordinary meaning, that rules without wisdom can break hearts, and that one person's courage can awaken an entire company's conscience.